All right. Well, welcome everybody who's not only here present currently right now this evening, but also to anyone in the future who is watching this video. I want to welcome you to the University of Maryland School Counseling Program. My name is Dr. Ilena Gonzalez. I am the program director. My pronouns are she, her, ella. And we are really excited to welcome you and to give you a little bit more information about our school counseling program that's housed in the College of Education. Um, I'm going to be running through a little slide deck this evening that we will also send to you along with this video recording. But what I really love about the slide deck is it really shows the faces of our program and the kinds of activities that we do as a school counseling program. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the images that you see here in our introductory slide. In the top left, we have a few of our students that participated in the Maryland School Counseling Association Conference. Next to that, we have our students that participated in their capstone project presentations. And in the corner, one of our former students who's now a school counselor in Prince George's County, Marta, that's her presenting her capstone presentation. And then in the bottom, we have our new incoming cohort who's been in our program about 8 or 9 weeks. And we have a lot more images to come and stories to tell about our school counseling program. So, I just want to talk a little bit about our agenda for this evening. Some welcome and introductions to some faces in the room and some voices that you're going to hear throughout this presentation. And then I want to talk a little bit about what the program is about and really what school counseling is as a profession. I know oftentimes we get asked a lot, what's the difference between a school counselor and a school psychologist? Or what's the difference between a social worker and a school counselor? So we're going to really talk about what our profession is about. Then we're going to get to the nitty gritty and, of course, talk about the program and the course sequence and the field experiences and everything related to what our 2-year program is about. We'll talk a little bit about what the career outlook looks like. We get a lot of questions around that. What is the future of the profession? What happens to our graduates, when they leave the program? Do they get jobs? So we'll talk a little bit about that and some things that I believe make the University of Maryland very different. And we'll talk about the application process and then open it up for any questions that anyone has. And if there are any questions along the way, feel free to enter it in the chat and we will address those questions at the end. So I am really blessed this evening to be joined with two of our current students that are in the second year of their program. They are going to graduate in May of 2026. All signs point to yes. They're currently in their field experience doing their internship. So they are part-time at schools. And I want them to definitely introduce themselves and talk a little bit about where they're from, what drew them to the University of Maryland School Counseling Program, and just a little bit about their life now in terms of internship and what they're doing. So, Sylvia, is it okay? I'm going to start with you.
Yes. Hi. My name is Sylvia. Yes, this is my second year in the program. I'm originally from Southern California. I did undergrad in like Philadelphia. So, one thing I liked about Maryland was sort of wanting to stay on this area of the East Coast. But I think probably the two things that stood out the most to me, were that I felt like the program, like, actually cared a lot about social justice stuff. And I felt like some of the other programs I was applying to were saying things, but it didn't feel like there's quite as much follow through. And being in the program, that definitely has like continued to be very present and part of our training. And then the other thing is that at the University of Maryland, you do placements in elementary, middle, and high school, like one each. And that's not something that all programs do. And I think that's something that's been very valuable because it's just like super different, like the responsibilities you have at those different levels. And just like good experience to get and like figure out, like, because I am still not completely sure what like grade level I want to work with, but like I worked with elementary schoolers and I was like, okay, I definitely don't want to do that. And I work with high school. I'm like, okay, I like this pretty well. So it's helpful for getting a sense of things. Yeah.
Thank you, Sylvia. Nicholas.
Yes. Hello, my name is Nicholas. I am from northeastern Georgia. I came here similar to what Sylvia was saying. I really liked how the program presented itself. I really valued that you had the opportunity to get experience in all three levels of school counseling so that you can know what each of them is like before you're put in the position where you actually have to do the job. Um, I, let's see, I also, also really liked the area. I also like that it was sort of like in the middle of like a lot of things without being like in a very overwhelming environment. Um, so I thought that was really neat, especially coming from Georgia where everything is super spaced out, coming to a place where it's like you can kind of go where you want to be instead of just being like, this is all you're gonna get for the next 2 years of your life. Um, Similar to what Sylvia said, I had my first real experience in middle school, and I wasn't quite sure that was for me. But I'm also doing a high school now, and that's been a much different, but I think a much more positive experience for me.
Well, thank you very much, Sylvia and Nicholas, and you all that are present here now. If you have any questions for our students, feel free to ask. We were going to ask some first year students to join us this evening, but they're in the middle of class right now, so they're unable to join us. And we'll get to talking a little bit about class times and those kinds of things in just a second. But I also have the pleasure this evening of being joined by my wonderful colleague, Dr. Jessica McKechnie. So, Dr. McKechnie, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit about your background and yeah, how long you've been in the program, those kinds of things.
Sure. So I'm Dr. Jessica McKechnie. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for introducing me. I'm an associate clinical professor and I am the director of field experience. So I have been involved with the University of Maryland for a pretty long time. I grew up in the area. I did my undergraduate, master's, and doctoral degrees all at the University of Maryland. So that should tell you I really enjoy the university. But also to let you know that I have experienced other universities, so I kind of know, although I know University of Maryland is amazing, I have the experience of going to different places and kind of can see what makes the university so wonderful. And I'll reiterate what Sylvia said about our department and especially our program has a real focus on social justice, access, and equity. It's really kind of the underlying thread that runs throughout all of our courses. We really kind of want the students that are seeking out our program to want that to be something that they want their professional career as a school counselor to be an important piece for them as well. So my job is to help guide students through this experience of being out in the field. I am the liaison between those field experience courses and their actual placement into their different three different site experiences. I also teach a didactic course, which is the theories course, which I love teaching because it's kind of at the beginning of the program experience. And then I get to kind of see you as you have developed through the 2 years in your final experience, in your final practice or internship experience. So yeah, so I'm excited to hear people's questions and why you're interested in the program and answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Dr. McKechnie. Yeah, and I'll just briefly introduce myself as well. Like I said, my name is Dr. Ilena Gonzalez. I'm an assistant clinical professor here. I am also a TERP. I graduated from this program as well in my PhD, and so I've known Dr. McKechnie for about 20 something years now, but we won't give exact ages. But Dr. McKechnie and I got our doctorate together at the University of Maryland. And then after a stint at another institution, I came back to Maryland. I say I came back home about 2 years ago. So I've been the program director for about a year and a half. And just it's an honor to just really be the director of such a great program, a dynamic program. and a program that is really growing and growing along with the profession. So I teach a lot of courses as well. I teach practicum. My favorite course to teach is our social and cultural theory course, formerly known as multicultural concerns. And my research is really all on teaching about issues of race, social justice, and anti-racism, particularly for counselors, and cultural competence for school counselors. So again, this is something that we believe in, and it's our passion as part of this program. So in this photo that you see right here is Nicholas and Sylvia's cohort. They just went through what we call a pinning ceremony at the College of Ed, which is your entrance into your last year of your program. And that was about 2 weeks ago, right, Dr. McKechnie? So they were part of this initiation and received a pin. And so that's the photo that you see here of some of our cohort members, our second year students earning their pin. All right, so let me talk a little bit about our department, and I think what makes it really unique is the ability to be so close to other helping professions. We are in what's called the Counseling, Higher Education, and Special Education Department, also known affectionately as CHESI. But within our department, because we have counseling psychology, because we have school counseling and school psychology, we have really a lot of expertise in the helping professions and a lot of opportunities to cross collaborate and really work with other students. As a matter of fact, a lot of our school counseling students take courses with school psychology students. So it's really a wonderful opportunity to learn a little bit about other professions, because that is the reality of schools, right? School counselors will work along, school psychologists will work along with social workers and other folks. So it's really important that that cross collaboration exists. And so we're so lucky to be housed within this department that we get these opportunities to not only learn from faculty, but also from students. This is our faculty. Like I said, you've met myself and Dr. McKechnie, but also Dr. Paul Gold, Dr. Natasha Mitchell Wyatt. I forgot to add her new last name. And Jarena Tran. These are the majority of professors that teach our courses. But in addition to this, we have other faculty that we work with that teach very specialized courses. And I'll talk a little bit about what that means in a few slides. So when people ask, what are school counselors? What is it that school counselors do? School counselors are highly educated. In order to be in this profession, you have to have that master's degree. You have to go through a certification process. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And really what we're about is student success in schools and what student success means for every student, which we know looks different for every student. School counselors are an integral part of the total education system that helps students form these healthy goals, mindsets, and behaviors. With the aid of a school counselor, students really learn to develop effective collaboration, cooperation skills, perseverance, growth mindset, time management, study skills, self-motivation. I can keep going on and on and on and on. But really, school counselors, we believe, are the heart of every school. And we believe that school counselors sit at the table in terms of the leadership team of every school. As a matter of fact, Sylvia and Nicholas can tell you they took a school counselor leadership class this past summer, where we really talked about, in order to do the work that school counselors need to do in terms of advocacy and social justice, really having a seat at the table. And so part of the skills that we teach here at the University of Maryland School Counseling Program is all about the practical skills of counseling work, but also the leadership and advocacy skills to really change systems to best benefit students, and particularly students that are marginalized. So school counselors, as I said earlier, are certified licensed educators, and I'll talk about that language of what is certified, what is licensed, and what does that mean. Each state sort of changes the name, but the end of the game is very similar. And it's all about student success for all students. And that's capitalized on purpose. Because when we think about a comprehensive school counseling program that really touches all students based on what is equitable. In other words, not giving every student the same thing, but rather really figuring out what are individual student needs, what are group student needs, what are location student needs as we think about school climate and context. And so school counselors are employed at elementary, middle, and high school levels. And they are part, as I said earlier, vital members of the school counselor leadership team. And school counselors, again, are all about academic achievement strategies, social, emotional, and college and career. So we'll talk about the kind of counseling and support that they provide students in individual, classroom, grade level. Sylvia and Nicholas have done all this work at the individual, group, classroom, grade level, school-wide levels of intervention. They're doing that right now in their advocacy projects, working in terms of collaboration with the other, what we call the other adults that support team for the student, whether that's parents, whether that's teachers, whether that's administrators, whether that's caregivers, and really thinking about what advocacy looks like. And we do that through data. It's a lot of data. So oftentimes people come into this profession thinking, oh, I'm just going to, sit in a room and work with a student one-on-one. That is ineffective based on school counselor load. The American School Counseling Association says that on average, a caseload should be 250 students to one. When we look at data from, in particular, urban districts, in other words, districts that are closer to large city centers that have high population of minoritized students and students from low income backgrounds, that ratio extends well beyond 250. So, in other words, to do this work, we really have to analyze data and really think about what are student needs and what are the interventions that we can plan in order to lessen those opportunity gaps for students. That educational systems, unfortunately, kind of sometimes widen those gaps. So our work, this is the advocacy work, right? This is part of that advocacy work, is how do we lessen those opportunity gaps? So again, it's all about these themes of leadership, advocacy, and systemic change. Because of where we are situated in College Park, Maryland, just outside of the Washington, D.C. area, we are all in urban school districts. And in a minute, Dr. McKechnie will talk about field experiences and the districts that we work with. But the districts that we work with are DC and the surrounding area. And so when we talk about urban school centers, it's some of those challenges that present themselves, but also some of the strengths and resources that are there in these school systems. And the image that you see here, I think this is in your class, right, Dr. McKechnie, last year? Yeah, we had a panel of alumni students that came back and were helping our students that were graduating in the job market, resume building, interview skills. So this is a panel that we do in the springtime when our students are getting ready to graduate. So this is the image you see here. On the left are former students, alumni students that are school counselors and work in a number of different places. On the right are students that graduated. And so the program is really about that cultural competence that is needed to work in terms of advocacy, leadership, and systemic change. And this comes with awareness, knowledge, and skills, not only about yourself, but about the community that you work with, and really understanding how to change systems that have been devalued because of, oppression, because of being marginalized in our systems and society. So really, we have a lot of those conversations in classroom spaces, like the image that you see here. This picture was actually taken a few weeks ago in my human development class. We have a project called the Counseling Concerns Project, and students pair up and pick an issue that is really important to them in schools. And they do a presentation on school counselor roles and responsibilities concerning that issue, policies, resources. And so these two students that are in here are first year students, and they did an amazing presentation on migration and the impact of undocumented status in students. So again, we practice these skills in our didactic courses, and then we put those skills in action in our field experience courses when our students are actually placed in a school and are being supervised by a professional school counselor that really leads them in this practice. So we are a 60 credit, 7 semester program, and I will walk you through what those 7 semesters look like. We have a 100-hour practicum experience and two 300-hour internship experiences. So what you see there is three field experiences, and at each, as Sylvia and Nicholas talked about, we will place you at either an elementary, middle, or a high school. Right now, Sylvia and Nicholas are doing internship one, and in the springtime, they will complete their second internship, last field experience in internship two. So we have some partnerships with local urban school districts. And our school counseling program has some opportunities for graduate assistantships. Nicholas, I know that you have a graduate assistantship within the University of Maryland as well, and some of our current students, our first year students, do as well. There are opportunities for research work. I get that question all the time. Even though we are an applied program, in other words, we're preparing you to be in the clinical space as a school counselor, but oftentimes people are really interested in doing research work. And trust me, there's plenty of that going on in our College of Education building. So, there are those opportunities, and of course conference opportunities with the American School Counseling Association, Maryland School Counseling Association, as you saw in some of our photos. Dr. McKechnie, I believe, yeah, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about these field experiences and your role and what that's like.
Yeah, so I think it was both of you sort of mentioned, Nicholas and Sylvia, about the I guess the pros about being able to experience three different levels throughout those three experiences. That the reason why our program requires that you have these three different field experiences over 3 semesters is that a lot of people come into our program saying, I know that I want to be a middle school counselor, or I know that I'm going to be this level or whatever. But then you get into the building, you experience what it's like, kind of the day-to-day activities, because these three levels really are very different. They don't realize that a high school counselor has a lot of paperwork to do, or that elementary students, there's a vast difference developmentally between a kindergartner and, a fifth grader, and how that you are sometimes the only one working in the building, the school counselor in the building, so you don't really have a team of support. So there's all these differences. So we are here to support you as you experience these three different levels. Your first experience, which is practicum, and it's only 100 hours, so you're only in the building kind of a day and a half, is for you to have the opportunity to have a lot of clinical experience, which is that one-on-one or small group experience, honing your counseling skills with students. And then as you graduate to a longer experience, which is usually almost 3 full days at your site, is really to practice being a school counselor, kind of all the day-to-day activities of a school counselor at various levels. And you do that twice with an advocacy project in there where we get you practicing looking at data and disaggregating data, where we think through what are the opportunity gaps, where we work on all of those social justice pieces that we've been talking about. And you work with your site supervisor to come up with a project where we work on intervention pieces in a really systemic way. So there's a lot of opportunities to do a lot of amazing work in the building with the support of the university and a site supervisor. But that's what those three experiences are like, and that's why we want you in the building while you still have support in the university space. And then is there a slide to talk about the different districts that we work with?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we partner, we have had a long relationship history with Prince George's County Public Schools, which is where the university sits. So that's regionally where we sit within Prince George's County Public Schools. But then now we've branched out and we have placements in Montgomery County Public Schools, which is just outside of a few miles from the university. And then we also have placements with KIPP DC, which is a public charter school in the District of Columbia. And then we have two independent schools that we work with. One is a parochial school in Rockville, Maryland, which is a Berman Hebrew Academy. And then the last one is a pretty unique school, which is the Diener School, which is a school specific for students with learning differences and extra behavioral needs. So it's a pretty unique set of options for different site placements.
Thanks, Dr. McKechnie.
Mhm.
And those partnerships keep growing. All right, so I'm going to walk very briefly through what the 2-year, 7-semester experience is like in terms of coursework. And what you're going to notice is it is a very quick time frame with these 7 semesters. The reason why it's 7 semesters in 2 years is because we offer summer and winter courses. And because we are a cohort model, that means that when you, if and when you are accepted to the program, you will be joining the same group of students that will be taking all of these courses together throughout the 2 years. So your program begins in the fall of year 1 with professional orientation, which is the introduction to the profession, counseling theories, which is the course that Dr. McKechnie teaches, counseling skills, and human development. Then in the winter intersession, this is a very small 3-week term where our students take courses online synchronously and asynchronously. And these are courses that are family and social support systems and special education for school counselors. In the spring of year 1, this is semester 3. You'll be taking social and cultural theory, group counseling, and there is that first field experience. So as you notice, you're not in the program very long. You're in about your 3rd semester um, before we place you out in the field to start practicing these counseling skills. And the last course you take in the spring is professional issues, which is ethical practice for counselors. And then in the summer, you'll take career development and research in counseling. Year 2, in the fall, you'll take appraisal, and there is your first school counseling internship course. And you take that along with school counselor leadership, consultation, and collaboration. In the winter, your second to last semester, you'll take psychology and diagnosis. And then your last semester, you'll take alcohol and drug counseling, program planning, and your last internship. So as you can see, it's a very quick 2 years. You can ask Sylvia and Nicholas. I told them when they came in the program, you're going to see how quick it is. They didn't believe me, but they believe me now in terms of how quickly it goes by with winter and summer and fall and spring through this 2-year program. A question I always get asked around this time is, do we ever get a break? And the answer is yes. The way that we do our coursework is when the semester finishes in the fall, students have about a week, 10 days to take a breath before the winter starts. And then in the summer, the way we organize summer is that there's a course usually in August and then a course in June. So typically the month of July, students have that off, and we think that self-care time is really important, especially because this program is so intense in terms of academic and in terms of professional work. So that is also a time that students can take a breather as part of the program. So, I was wrong, Dr. McKechnie. I did have a slide on field experiences. But Dr. McKechnie talked about this a little bit in terms of it being across 3 levels and the 2 300-hour internships in the fall and spring of year 2. So 3 different placements at 3 different levels at 3 different times throughout your program training. And as Dr. McKechnie said, I really want to emphasize that the practicum is all about practicing those counseling skills in individual and group. And then the internship is really about looking at things from a systemic perspective and continuing to practice those individual, group, classroom, grade level, all those kinds of counseling skills. So if you are interested in learning more about the profession, there are 2 key areas that I would love to take you to. One is the American Counseling Association, which is the big umbrella organization. The website is counseling.org. Under the American Counseling Association are school counselors, marriage and family counselors, addiction counselors, clinical mental health counselors. So this is the big umbrella of our profession. And then specifically, if you want to learn more about school counseling, Oh, my apologies. Something's ringing in my house. Um, if you want to learn more about school counseling, I invite you to go to schoolcounselor.org. That has a lot of information about the school counseling profession. Let's talk a little bit about career outlook and what it looks like. This is, as of 2024, the median pay is about $65,000 per year. It's a master's degree to enter. The number of jobs as of 2024 was 376,300. So this is growing. The school counseling profession is growing. As we think about the needs of schools and the diverse needs of students, so it is projected, this profession is projected to grow on average about 4%, which is about as fast as average. About 29,000 openings for school and career counselors and advisors are projected each year on average over the next decade. What I can say locally, and Dr. McKechnie can attest to this, is our students graduate and gain employment very quickly. Of our students, about 100% of them gain employment in the field as professional school counselors, those that want it. We have students that go off and want to start their PhD program, or we have students that would like to learn more about the higher education space or the non-for-profit space or the policy space. That happens. And thankfully, we have a really strong alumni network that we can connect students to in terms of, students that have come to our program and maybe moved to California and, gotten a school counseling position. So connecting our current students that might have an interest in that or in the non-for-profit space. But of our students that want to go right into the school counseling profession, about 100% of them, we have a really great rate. And Dr. McKechnie and I get lots of emails from our partners, even though we only work with 2 school districts currently in these independent schools. Because we've been in this profession so long and we have such great relationships with the surrounding school districts, we have people that go into Northern Virginia, DC, if you're familiar with the area, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Hartford County. So we have great connections. And the reason why I have this picture here is because this is one of our graduates that graduated in May of this year, right, Dr. McKechnie? And this is Rory, one of our graduates, who is a high school counselor in Montgomery County Public Schools. And to our delight, Dr. McKechnie and I got this beautiful message on his first day as a school counselor. And he sent this picture and said very nice things about the program and about his experience. And he just sent us a picture on his first day as officially as a professional school counselor. So our program is really about that employment and those connections to whether it's local or state or national, working in the school counseling profession and other places where our students might decide to go. Let me talk a little bit about the benefits of the University of Maryland. We are fully aligned with the ASCA National Model and professional standards and competencies of school counselors as dictated by the American School Counseling Association. And our program is accredited by AQUIP, which is the Association for Advancing Quality Educator Programs. And this is the point where I talk about other accreditation bodies that exist. Other accreditation bodies that exist that talk about programs, you might see the word CACREP, which is another accreditation body for counseling programs. So this is a philosophy of counseling that we don't necessarily ascribe to. Our program and our college really feels that CACREP is very limiting in terms of counselor education. And so we rely more on AQUIP because CACREP is very limiting in terms of who can teach counseling courses, what expertise they have. And this is where I go back to the kinds of people that teach our courses and the expertise that they have. So that special education course is taught by someone in the special education department. If we were CACREP, we couldn't have that opportunity. Our person that teaches our group counseling course is a licensed clinical counselor. So we'll come in and do those group counseling skills because that is what she practices. And on and on. I could go on and on in terms of the expertise of our faculty. So again, this is our philosophy and this is what we really believe in terms of our profession. Nicholas, I think you unmuted yourself and I talked over you. My apologies. Did you want to add something?
I know, I'm pretty sure I've been on mute the whole time, so I didn't have anything specifically to add.
Okay, sorry. All right, so the benefits of attending UMD, we are a community. And because we are at a large, diverse university, as Nicholas talked about earlier, in terms of the space and the place, there is so much going on all the time at our college, in our school, opportunities for learning, for collaborating, for being exposed to all sorts of different people, all sorts of different experiences. And we tend to do work as a community. So this picture that you see here is, I think, is our welcome event. And so in the fall, we had like the college had like a welcome barbecue or a welcome party, and this was it. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a cohort training model. So Sylvia and Nicholas have other counterparts that they have started this program with from the beginning and will leave the program altogether. Our first year cohort as well, they all started together and they are taking every single course together. The benefits of that is that you get to know these people very deeply, and they can support you in times of challenge. They can assist you and build you up. And so the cohort model, we believe, is really a strong component of our counseling program. Another benefit of attending our program, we are located in the #1 ranked program in the US. In terms of counseling programs, we were previously ranked #1 for 19 straight years. So as far as the US News and World Report, we are housed within the #1 program in the country. Let me talk a little bit about the application process. The applications are due December 5th. We always get asked things like, well, I don't come from a psychology background or an education background. Can I apply? The answer is yes, we want you. We're really looking for people who are passionate about youth, about serving youth that are typically underserved and are typically marginalized by society, who will be leaders and advocates and are willing to take those risks in order to shake up systems for the benefit of youth and benefit of communities. So your background, we will give you all the skills that you need, trust me. So we don't, those undergraduate degrees are important, but we really just want to see through your essays and your communication to us, what drew you to the profession of school counseling, and where do you see yourself in terms of your relationship, in terms of who you are and your role as a potentially a professional school counselor? After your application is reviewed, you may be invited. We have 2 rounds. Round 1 is we look at all the digital applications as a faculty and we rate them. And people that don't meet the rating are told, that you don't move on to the second level. And then the second level is probably the last week of January, first, second week of February. We have a formal interview stage. And we conduct those. We have one day that we do in person for people that are able and have the capacity to come to campus, to meet with us face to face, to meet some of our current students, and the online capacity where that for folks that are far away or don't have the financial means to travel to College Park, and come to the in-person day. And in the online space, we try to recreate what happens in the in-person space. We invite our current students, we answer all the questions. And then from there, faculty will make those final decisions around the cohort. Another question I always get asked is, how many students are you looking for? We do not have a set number. We usually look for a cohort of anywhere between around 12 to 17 students, in that vicinity, of quality people that we feel are ready and willing and able to participate and are ready to be professional school counselors. So the last thing on the screen talks about licensure and certification. I always get asked, what does that mean? What happens when I graduate? So your degree from the University of Maryland has what's called reciprocity. That means it's a master's degree in school counseling and it is recognized in every state in the country. Now, because education is a state's right, every state has their way of certifying school counselors. So, for example, teachers have to go through the same process. All educators have to go through a process in order to get certified. The reason why I put that in air quotes is that some states are changing that language and are now calling it licensure. For example, the state of Virginia, right? Our neighbors to the south call it school counselor licensure. So you may see that word. It means the same thing. It's just some states choose different languages. Now, in the state of Maryland, because our program is recognized by the Maryland Department of Education, you graduate with your degree, and if you want to practice in the state of Maryland, you send off your transcript, you apply to get your school counselor certificate, you're good, you're done. Other states have other requirements. Maybe some states will require what's called a praxis exam in addition. Some states might require an extra course or two. We walk you along through the process. Once you're accepted, you will be paired with a faculty advisor. And as you go through every semester in the program, we offer a lot of career advisement. In other words, I'm going to graduate in, 2020, May of 2026, and I think I want to be a school counselor in California. Okay, well, let's look at what that looks like. What does it require? What do we need to do, etc. So if you're really interested in what is required for maybe a state that you might be interested in working with, again, I invite you to go back to that website of the American School Counseling Association, schoolcounselor.org. And on there, there's a tab that says, what is required in the state? And it shows an entire map of all the US territories and all 50 states. And you click on a state and it takes you to that Department of Education's website with what are the requirements. The other thing I want to talk about that I get asked a lot is about clinical mental health licensure. People ask, can I still go for my clinical mental health licensure if I have a school counseling degree? The answer is it depends. Just like being a school counselor in each state and the process of getting certified or licensure, if you're the state of Virginia and want to use that fancy language, each state has their own requirements for clinical mental health licensure. Again, because we are in the state of Maryland, if you want to go for that, you are just have to take one extra course as part of your program plan. And once that course is up and running and ready for you to take it, we will let you know. We will let you know that if you do want to go for clinical mental health licensure to take this course. And then when you graduate, you are able to take the national counselor exam and apply for licensure in the state of Maryland. But what if I graduate and then I do decide that, and I didn't take that course and I still want to be a licensed, that's okay. You can take that course as a non-degree seeking student, and it doesn't mean it eliminates you forever from becoming a clinical mental health counselor. You still have that opportunity. But sometimes students know and want different alternatives, and so they take that course while they're with us as well. So that is all that we have in terms of our presentation to you this evening. We are open to any and all questions. Feel free to unmute. No question is a bad question. Ask away. My email is there if you have any additional questions, and if you want to talk to any of our students further. But also too, I know that many of you have been talking to Sarah, our GA as well. So again, any questions that you have, you can also ask back there as well. Do we have any questions from anybody in the room? Now's your chance. You got faculty, you got students, ask away. Or if you're shy, feel free to put it in the chat.
I have a question. Sorry. Hi. Hi, my name is Claire. Uh, what do you people feel like is the most challenging about the program?
I will let Sylvia and Nicholas answer that. What is the most challenging thing about the program?
For me, I'd say probably the time management aspect, especially once you start getting to those field experiences. Um, it can be a lot to try and balance time for your classes, your time spent internship, potentially also working a job, and then doing your assignments. And so it can be a bit tricky to, especially when you're just starting to get into it, sort of find that balance. You can do it. There is like a lot of the classes all tend to happen, with the exception of one class, a lot of them tend to happen like in the late afternoon to the evening. So it does give you time during the day to do things. Um, but yeah, I think especially once you get to like that spring semester, you have to start figuring out what your schedule's going to be like because it starts moving very quickly once you hit the spring.
Yeah, I'll echo that yeah, the time management is definitely a big challenge, and also just that you're sort of dealing with like responsibilities from a lot of different sources because you sort of got like your class assignments that you're doing independently, you've got class assignments that you're doing at internship, you've got things you're just doing for the school at internship. Like there's a lot of different things you're trying to meet that sometimes fit well together and sometimes sort of clash a little bit. So you have to navigate that.
Dr. McKechnie, do you have a response to that question? The hardest thing of the
Well, I
program?
just wanted to double check that that answered your question, Claire. As someone who helps kind of supervise the students as they're going through internship and as they get to that really busy time, it is overwhelming, but everyone gets through it. Like they all sort of get through it, and then it happens quickly, and then before they know it, it's graduation time, and it's, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait till I can have just one job." And then like they can have one full-time job and they don't have to juggle all of these different things, and it's very exciting. But it does get a little overwhelming. The cool part about our program is that it's a cohort model. So you have like kind of a group of friends that are all going through it at the same time.
Mhm.
And so you can kind of lean on each other and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." But I know that it's crazy for everybody. So you don't feel like you're the only one kind of dealing with all of this stuff. You have a group of people that are all going through it together with you.
Thank you so much for answering my question.
Yeah. I see in the chat that Rachel has posted. I saw that there are a couple of additional essays required. Do you have any recommendations on what to include, how to style those essays? Dr. McKechnie, feel free to add. Rachel, what we always tell students is really for us to get a sense of who you are as a person and your intention around this profession and your passion for this profession. Like I said in the slides, that's really what we're looking for. So, as you write these essays, I want you to read them back. And is this essay really representative of who you are? And does it show your passion in terms of the helping profession, school counseling, and helping marginalized youth and communities?
Yeah, when I'm reading these essays, I want to like be able to finish reading the essay and be like, does this person want to be a school counselor? Do they want to be like something else? Do they want to work like in a community organizing? Do they want to be a school psychologist? If I can come away from this essay and be like, oh, they want to be a school counselor and they want to work with like youth and they get a sense of what they want to do. I think a lot of our students come to the program, and whether they know they, want to work with middle school or high school or elementary school, a lot of students come in not knowing that kind of stuff. But what they do usually want to know is they usually do know is I want to be a school counselor. Like I know I've known that this is something I'm really interested in doing.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Rachel. Any other questions for us, our students?
I guess I have a question. I know you have a research class. And I was wondering what that research class is like.
We have it tomorrow. Nicholas, Sylvia, and I will be in that class tomorrow. So people often see that word research and get intimidated by that word. And I will be the first. You can ask Sylvia and Nicholas the first day of class. I say, don't worry, it isn't that kind of class because people assume it is a deep statistics class. No, the joy of the research class is that it is about how can school counselors really be a smart consumer in terms of evidence-based practices. And when they look at literature, when they look at research in the field, can they critique it? Can they see, how viable is this in terms of evidence that really I can incorporate into my program? And also what we do in that class is a lot of, our own research building skills, how to disaggregate data, what does qualitative data look like, how to analyze qualitative data, because as a school counselor, you are going to be collecting data, you're going to be analyzing data within your building. So really it's an important aspect. So Claire, I felt the energy from your question in terms of fear around math. And don't worry, there is math, but it is more of like, this is what these numbers mean, more so than you have to calculate it.
Thank you. Yeah. Math is not my strongest suit, so
Yeah, 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 yeah.
thank you.
Let's see, Caleb, for students, what would you say is the biggest changes between your undergrad self and your graduate self? Ooh, Caleb, that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess one thing that sort of immediately comes to mind for me is just sort of like the type of work I'm doing is pretty different. Like in undergrad, it was a lot of like I'm writing papers or whatever, and it was sort of very like insulated things, like I was doing it completely independently. And there's obviously still things like that now, but there's a lot more stuff where it's like you're actively collaborating with other people, and sort of like some of the like time management and like different sort of styles of how you're getting things done because you're working with other people in that way. And that's definitely very relevant to the career of school counseling. That's just super collaboration based.
Mhm.
For me, sort of echoing what Sylvia said, the type of work for me, my undergrad was basically probing out a whole lot of different things, trying to figure out what I did want to do. And so when I started this program, it was very much like it's more specialized to like, okay, you're going in for this specific job to do, and now you're going to learn everything attached to it. Um, I think some of the things that I've felt have changed. I feel like I'm a lot more self-reflective now than I was before. That's going to be your first year in a nutshell, is you're going to be doing 95% self-reflection. Um, And I think also is learning to advocate for yourself, especially once you get to spring, you start doing your first like field experience. You have to learn to like if you need something, you have to like go and talk to someone about it
Mhm.
because that's the only way things are gonna get fixed or they're gonna be changed. And I
Mhm.
think those are like some of the things that have like I've had to change as I've gone through this program.
Well said, both of you. Well said. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm watching the time and I want to make sure I give all these folks time off. They got internship tomorrow. Any tips for time management you've learned?
Do you want to go first? Or you want me to
You
go
can
first?
go.
Okay. For me, it's sort of knowing when your brain is too tired to work. Um, For example, a lot of our classes get out like around 7-ish. And at that point, I know in my mind, I am not going to be able to sit down and focus on doing schoolwork after that. So I just kind of set a limit of after this point in the day, I'm done. I will not be doing more schoolwork because I'm going to struggle to get anything done. And anything I do get done is not going to be probably that great of work. And so it's like at this point, everything else is tomorrow's problem. And that way I can be like, okay, I've worked my time for today, and now I can just sit back and relax the rest of the day.
Yeah, I've started like waking up really early on weekends and just like working for a long time in those mornings, because yeah, like Nick said, it's trying to like get stuff done after you've had like a day of internship and or work, and then class is just like not realistic for me at least. So like, yeah, finding the times when you are productive and taking advantage of that and letting yourself take breaks when you know you're not going to be at your best.
And I
Yeah,
have
we
to,
spent,
and
oh, go ahead.
I'll add one thing is when Nick said advocating for yourself, us and I believe and I'll speak for myself, but I think Dr. Gonzalez we're very understanding, and we get that life happens and people get stressed. So as long as the students in the program are letting us know when they need mental health breaks or they need a little extra time to finish an assignment, like we are pretty understanding with that. So we expect that students are advocating and just letting us know, keeping us informed of what's going on. We can be very flexible. So, we know that you guys are entering into a profession that we expect that you take care of yourself physically, mentally, psychologically, all of that. So we want you to practice that throughout the program, because this can be a pretty taxing, stressful program. So we give you grace, and we know that, there are deadlines, but if you let us know that you need some time, we are happy to give you that time because we want you to practice that self-care.
That's right. Well, I am watching the time, and I know that these folks have internship and class and all sorts of things. So I just want to thank you all for coming this evening. And if you've got more questions, this isn't the last time that we can chat. Feel free to email us, email me, and if you have more questions for Sylvia and Nicholas, I will pass that along to them. And we wish you good luck in the application season. And let us know if there's anything else that we can answer in regards to our program. But again, thank you so much for coming this evening, and have a great night and good luck.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.